out, guys. I wanted to take a second today and just go over some general Airbnb info for the island of Oahu, because there's a lot of people who don't know how it works here, and there's a lot of misconceptions. So, first of all, let's pull out the map. So there's a lot of misconceptions on how Airbnb works on Oahu. So let's zoom out here. I would say it generally falls into two main buckets, right? So bucket number one is someone comes on vacation here and they look around and they say, wow, what a lovely island. I would love to buy a house here and vacation here once a year. When I'm not here, I can just put it on Airbnb and I bet I can make a killing. And they do the quick back of the napkin math, and to be honest, they're right. Pretty much, I mean, there's exceptions, but a lot of the housing inventory here on Oahu and in Hawaii in general would pencil great as an Airbnb. Thing about that is it is not legal for most homes. Okay. And that kind of leads into the second stereotype is people start asking around and they say, okay, like, I want to do this. How do I do it? And they talk to two or three people and they hear about all the regulation and they go completely the other way. They go from Airbnb on Oahu is a great idea all the way to Airbnb on Oahu is impossible because of all the legislation, all the regulations, all the filing, the taxes that you have to do, right? And the truth of the matter is that neither of those are true. And if you just watched to this point in the video, that's the big take-home message, is that it is neither an Airbnb free-for-all out here, nor is it impossible. There are ways to do it well, there are ways to do it legally, and there are ways to make a lot of money on Airbnb. But you do have to be careful because there is the reality of the regulations. So let's talk about just the basics, and I'll make another video diving deeper in. But the basic situation, and I'm just here to tell you guys the law. I'm not here to give you my opinion on it, say if it's right or wrong or what should be done. I'm just here to say what is happening, what does the law say right now, okay? So also, caveat, this is not legal advice. Talk to your real estate professional and your lawyer and all that, right? So, but this is what's going on with Airbnb on Oahu. So there are certain areas on this island where you can do nightly vacation rentals. They are zoned generally resort zones, and with very few exceptions, you can buy a unit there, and you can apply for a couple permits, register with the state and county, and have a legal short-term rental. And as long as you pay your taxes, you're good, right? Outside of those zones, currently, you can do monthly vacation rentals. Now, there's been some recent legislation that might affect that, and I'll get into that in a second. But let's talk about the three zones first. So, there are pockets outside of these, but the main ones are going to be right in Waikiki. So if you go down here, you're going to see a lot of vacation rentals. Okay, Waikiki is just this whole area that says Waikiki. It's like kind of wrapped around by the Alawai. We have over 1,000 places in here. We have lots and lots and lots of rooms. Okay, and this is your typical, like, when people think of Hawaii, people think of Waikiki. It is definitely a specific vibe. It's crushed. There's a lot of people. It's skyscrapers. Like here, I know this guy and I know his unit. You can see he's got a picture here where you can kind of see it. Yeah. So it's skyscrapers on the beach, right? It's full. You got all your shopping, and some people love that. Some people imagine a more tranquil, nature-focused Hawaiian vacation. But this is Waikiki, and this is what it is, right? So that is zone number one. It's where there's the most inventory, probably the most popular. It's the most famous tourist destination on the island. Second place you can go is up here at Turtle Bay. Okay. So you will see these types of units, right? So there's a big resort up here. It's called Turtle Bay, and as part of the resort, they have zoned condos. They kind of look like this. Is kind of an outside shot, and this one's not remodeled beautifully on the inside. But you do have some that are done really, really nicely, and these are awesome, right? Because you kind of get the best of both worlds. North Shore is definitely a lot more remote. It's beautiful to visit. Turtle Bay Resort is incredible, and you kind of get to stay up there in all the resort amenities. Here's a good shot without actually having to stay at the hotel. And you can get some more reasonable prices because that hotel you're looking at probably $700 a night minimum, right? But you can get that experience in an Airbnb, have some of the benefits of an Airbnb, right? So there's the second zone. And then the third, oops, if I can zoom out here, is Ko'olina. So over here you get, there's a couple of resorts over here. The Four Seasons is over here. The Aulani, the Disney Resort, and you get these beautiful beach villas that are awesome. These are some of my favorite units, and the west side is amazing. And these are kind of the not so much high-rise condo vibes. You get a little bit bigger units, less studios, more as you can see, more space in these units. They're also, if you're investing, they're going to run you a higher price tag. So you'll also notice that there are pockets outside of here, right? So we see, obviously we have Waikiki, Ko'olina, and up here by Turtle Bay. But you're probably going to ask, what about all these other units that are outside of those zones? Now, there are exceptions, guys. So there's what's called non-conforming use permits. If a unit has been operating as an Airbnb for a long period of time, they can get what's called a non-conforming use permit, which is basically like an exception that says, hey, since this unit was being used as an Airbnb before legislation passed, it can continue to operate as an Airbnb or a nightly vacation rental. Now, these are rare, and if for most investors, probably not practical to seek them out because there's not a lot of movement in the inventory. To be honest, there's not tons of inventory for short-term rentals in general. We see about 50 per month that buy and sell here on the island, which, considering how many people want to invest in vacation here, is not a ton of inventory. So everything outside of these is either a non-conforming use, monthly vacation rental, which I'll touch on, or there are a lot of illegal Airbnbs as well. And that's unfortunate, and we can talk about why at a different time. But suffice it to say for this video, if you're going to invest in Hawaii, please just do it legally, do it within the law. There's lots of ways to do it in a way that is legal and compliant, doesn't put you or your guests at risk, and you can still make a great investment and make great money doing it legally. You don't have to fly under the radar, okay? Now, monthly vacation rentals. There was legislation just passed that basically gave sweeping authority to the counties, in other words, the islands, in the individual islands of Hawaii, to pass legislation on short-term rentals. Now, on Oahu, the talk has been to change the 30-day rental minimum to a 90-day minimum. So if you were in a place like Kailua is a popular place where people will do, let's see if these guys are legal, and they say like a 30-day monthly discount, legally established dwelling. Okay, yep, in compliance with the revised ordinances of the City and County of Honolulu, minimum advertised rental period for this property is 30 consecutive nights, yada, yada, yada. So you got to book it for a month if you stay here. The change that's going on is that there's talk of changing these non-resort zoned areas, because you can do a 30-day rental generally anywhere on the island in the past with the old legislation. there's talk of changing these 30-day rentals to 90-day minimums, which would mean that if you were going to rent to a person who's not signing a long-term lease as a tenant, the minimum you could do would be 90 days. Now, there are a lot of people who are going to fight that, and it's going to go back and forth, and are we going to know what's going to happen here for a while? Probably not. There's always argument going back and forth. The good news is, and this is just my opinion on investing on Oahu, there are a lot of places in the world where you don't know what's going to happen with short-term rental legislation, because these pockets, they'll blow up, they'll get really, really popular, and then whatever the local municipality is basically takes a look and they say, wow, like we have all these problems now due to tourism, and it's causing these issues with the long-time residents. And they get together and they decide how they're going to solve that. And sometimes they can be quite aggressive in their reaction to it. So there are a lot of people who promote buying and investing in Airbnbs in generally untapped markets. And it can be a great strategy. That being said, when the market does become tapped over the next 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years, you run the risk of saying, what happens when Airbnbs or short-term rentals become a big enough issue that they get addressed? And by issue, I don't mean problem, but they just become prevalent enough that they get addressed by the local municipality. And what can happen a lot of times is they can pass sweeping legislation in the negative. So one of the nice things about investing in Airbnbs or short-term rentals on Oahu or in Hawaii, or really in any other tourism-heavy market, is that we've had these problems for decades, right? Like Waikiki has been a tourist destination for decades and decades and decades. And the good thing about that, the positive, there are negatives that come along with that, but the positive is that the municipality, the government here, has basically figured out how to deal with that and how to regulate it. And they said, hey, we're going to cut this off, just to use Waikiki as an example. We're going to zone this chunk as a resort, and we're going to let hotels and Airbnbs operate pretty freely within this zone. And everyone pretty much accepts that. And it's unlikely, again, I don't have a crystal ball and make your own decisions, do your own research, all that, right? It is unlikely that Waikiki would be, or another resort zoned area would have legislation that would change its status as a legal spot or a legal area to do vacation rentals. So that's just my 2 cents as a property manager here, someone who this is my job. I do this full time, and it is, in my opinion, big. It makes me sleep easier at night knowing that in these resort zoned areas, these conversations have already been had, decisions have already been made, and there's been laws that have been put into practice for years and years and years already. So there's a certain degree of stability that investors have in these zones that they might not have in other areas. So if you have any questions about where to invest, feel free to reach out on our website, islandstayshawaii.com. Happy to answer any questions. And again, guys, just know, if you take anything away from this video, you can do Airbnb or short-term rentals on Oahu. You can do it legally, you can do it profitably, you can do it responsibly in a way that doesn't put you and your guests at risk. You just got to be in line and compliant with all the laws that we have. Until next time, guys, thanks for watching. Aloha.